Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our event, where we are going to present to you the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. This event is organized after the request of the sector, as expressed in a stakeholder consultation last autumn carried out by the European Commission, in which you may have participated. And in that consultation, which took form of a survey, the demand was clear. The sector needs clear information on the benefit of the cloud and also training on how to use the cloud, its tools, and on digital skills in general. So let me now briefly introduce this event, which will be held in two parts to provide as much clarity as possible and element of response to these expressed needs. So this will be open with the first part, who will show the tangible benefits of such a collaborative cloud for cultural heritage, and then we'll go on with a part dedicated to how to build and how to start building concretely a community of practice. Mrs. Maria Gabriel, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, will open the event, and then Member of European Parliament, Mr. Christian Eller, will deliver a keynote speech. And after that, we have, for this first part, invited four very inspiring researchers leading diverse and innovative projects from the field of cultural heritage and cultural science. They are going to present us how to use digital technologies and tools in their everyday work, and how the result of their work can benefit the sector. And with this presentation, the first part will be concluded. We will start then the second part of the event dedicated to start, as I just said, the process of building a community of practice. We will listen the Member of European Parliament, Alexis Georgoulis, who will open this second part. And then Mrs. Julia Pagel, Secretary General of NEMO, the Network of European Museum Organizations, will address the event. So when we speak about a community of practice, community is not just for high-level, very sophisticated or more advanced institution, but for everyone. This is also in the title of this event, and very important point. And this is about communities of peers that helps concretely everyone to use and to take advantage of the tool of the cloud, a cloud which aims to be collaborative. So to discuss these various aspects of this community, we will split in three parallel sessions. In there, you will have the opportunity to listen to interesting testimonials from cultural heritage professionals, from also infrastructures dedicated or linked to the sector, and participate in actively in this discussion. And for that, the tool that will be used is Slido, that you may know. So to make sure that you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen, and you are strongly encouraged to write your question, remark, comments or suggestions during this parallel session, and also after. I will remind it. And after this parallel session, we will return to plenary to report on the discussions held in the parallel session. And Mrs. Joanna Drake, Deputy Director General of the Directorate General for Research and Innovation of the European Commission, will close the event. So without further ado, I have the honor to hand over to Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, honorable members of the European Parliament, dear Christian, dear Alexis, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it is my pleasure to open this workshop on the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage with a dense and rich agenda today. And I must say that I'm particularly grateful for the very high participation of professionals from cultural institutions to our event, And that is in line with the more than 1,000 responses received to our survey. Well, we are here to discuss the benefits of the cloud for professionals and to lay the grounds for vivid community of users. In other words, it is a chance to shape up the cloud, and I'm looking forward to discussing it with you. I think that we can say since the very beginning, Europe is a mosaic of cultures. Our exceptional diversity is precious, and we bear the responsibility to pass it on the generations to come. Our cultural heritage connects the dots between our past, our present, and our future. And it is also a source for jobs, it creates value, and holds the power to contribute to the response to the challenges of our times, such as the green or digital transition. However, the sector of cultural heritage is facing challenges. First, adapting to new technologies is a challenge because the intensification of the digital transition requires infrastructures, services, and skills. Even the best known and best funded institutions feel the strain to adapt to the rapid development of technology, not to mention smaller or remote institutions for which access to basic infrastructure, broadband connectivity may be additional challenges. Then resources are limited. Public funds may be scarce and revenues from digital use not always shared in all fairness. But allow me to be very frank. Yes, we have unprecedented budget at the service of culture and creativity at the European level, and the instruments to implement it with Creative Europe, Horizon Europe, and the new Knowledge and Innovation Community for Culture. But if the sector does not join forces, it will not reach its full potential. And if institutions are even struggling to do their job properly, you may wonder how to grasp new opportunities. And to develop my response to this question, I would like to go back to the rationale of the cloud before presenting the features of the cloud and how we intend to proceed. Well, first, the cultural and creative sectors have uneven access to the digital infrastructure and services. Some actors depend too highly on predominant platforms and providers. Then may come copyright and access issues, and it becomes difficult to preserve the authenticity and integrity of digital versions. Besides, many countries have invested in capacity building or digitization of cultural heritage. But if their efforts have proven effective, they often took a national perspective, while the problematic does not know any borders. The COVID-19 crisis has been both an accelerator of the digital transformation and an amplifier of the disparities and challenges for a fair digital uptake. The digital divide is real. Our landscape is fragmented. Having said that, challenges comes with opportunities. The rise of digitization offers exciting opportunities. It holds the power to help cultural institutions preserve, share, and enhance our cultural heritage. It offers new solutions in storage, conservation, analysis, and management of both data and physical collections. The rise of digitization facilitates international collaboration, accessibility, and engagement with new and diverse audiences, including the younger ones. In other words, digitization opens possibilities for new business models, and we must take advantage of such opportunities. This leads me naturally to present what we intend to, covering both our means and the features of our projects. Since 2019, you know that as Commissioner, I'm responsible for both research and innovation and culture, education and youth. And it's true that our key funding program for research and innovation has already put 70 million euro on the table to finance projects in advanced digitization technologies, in 3D modeling, reconstruction, in curation of digital assets, and much more. And we can also count on two legislative initiatives that have been launched to fight against illegal content in the digital era, namely the copyright reform and the Digital Services Act. Now, digital technologies advance rapidly. and European citizens expect all of us to be on top of our game. So let's join forces. Let's join forces for a European solution to bring our cultural heritage sector into the digital era and to make the access to advanced technologies much more accessible for everyone. The European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage is expected to foster collaboration and allow each cultural institution to reap the benefits of the digital transition. And here allow me to highlight three important features of the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage: collaboration, IP rights, and the community. First, collaboration. The cloud will enable multidisciplinary collaboration between cultural heritage professionals in a working space that is tailored for them, that is secure and under European jurisdiction. This is crucial to gather a wide range of players and to allow commercial and not commercial cooperation. Second, intellectual property rights. The cloud will protect the intellectual property rights of the digital objects that it stores or are produced in cooperation through it, making them fully recorded and traceable. This will secure and promote the commercial exploitation of the cultural wealth of the museums in Europe. And because cultural heritage is a fertile ground for innovation, I believe that it will pave the way for new business models. Third, a community of practice. Most importantly, the cloud will facilitate the development of a dynamic community that is motivated by common challenges. And I'm talking about a real cloud for all that will give the professionals across our continent the most innovative tools. To make the cloud a success, we cannot do it alone. And this leads me naturally to the third aspect on which I wanted to say a few words. Well, along which method do we intend to build the cloud? At this stage, we have a clear mandate from the European Parliament and the European member states, which was reinforced last June with the support of all ministers of science and culture. And the cloud will complement two initiatives you know well, Europeana and the European Common Data Space for Cultural Heritage. We have a solid legal base and a budget, thanks to Horizon Europe. We have allocated 110 million euro in Horizon Europe to be implemented in three sets of calls. 35 million this year to set up the infrastructure, 49 million next year for developing tools, and 26 million in 2025 for the first real-time applications. And we have you. We already had an independent expert report that had mapped the existing initiatives and identified potential synergies. And then we received the results of the broad stakeholders consultation last autumn and the extensive survey that followed up with more than 1,000 responses. And with my team, with my services, we have listened to your suggestions, especially the need for information on the benefits of the cloud, the need from cultural heritage professionals for a modern IT equipment, broadband internet access, and for adequate training. That's why, as Commission, we want to mobilize European structural funds to provide broadband internet access and modern IT equipment to cultural heritage institutions and museums. So we'll mobilize European programs for IT training at all levels. And the present workshop is our reply on the need for information on the benefits of the cloud. And this brings me to our agenda today. You know, in the first session, we'll hear how in practice digital solutions can benefit your everyday work. In the second parallel session, you will have the floor to tell how you see the best use of the cloud, how you believe communities of practice should be built. And this last part especially is what makes today so special. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege when I travel to meet you, to exchange directly with you, to see the fantastic work that you are doing and witness your dedication to our European cultural heritage. And I'm mindful of the challenges in preserving and promoting our heritage in a digital age. At the same time, I'm confident that by working together, sharing expertise and ideas, we can truly realize our shared goals. A cloud for all is not a slogan, it's a call for action. So we are calling on you to develop the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage in a way that is adapted to your needs, that responds to your realities, and is easy for you to use. The project will start in the first half of 24, so the time is now. Maybe I can finish with a quote as Heraclitus said, "The only constant in life is change." As we strive for our cultural heritage, let's recognize the dynamic and ever-evolving nature of culture and the importance of adaptation to preserve the mosaic of our cultures for future generations. By embracing the changes of the present and valuing the traditions of the past, we look into the future with confidence. Our cultural heritage is a source of pride and will be an inspiration for the many generations to come. So thank you very much again for your commitment, your passion. Thank you for your attention. Now I will stop here and I would like to wish you a very fruitful conversations today and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Gabriel, for this inspiring speech and also clarification. Now I give the floor to a member of European Parliament, Christian Eller.
Thank you very much. Dear Commissioner Gabriel, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to speak today about the subject which is really close to my heart, and that's the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. I just would like to look a little bit back or to the background of the cloud. So first of all, in terms of trust in politics and the interaction between stakeholders and the European institution, it had been your idea. It's your success. It is really the way you're organizing yourself, your umbrella organizations, how they work. 10 years ago, the Parliament started to have consultations about the importance of the cultural and the creative sector in Europe. And I well remember when we had been in the Parliament and representatives from the museums had been addressing us, rightly referring to the challenges the Commissioner already have mentioned. We are well aware that there are a lot of museums, small institutions, which really fight for principal budget matters. They fight for survival. They fight for being still able to participate in international conferences in a kind of collaborative idea how museums should work together. So we are well aware that there is a daily fight for a lot of museums, even to keep the museums open, to keep the work on the content of the museums, which seems to be far away from, let's say, this kind of umbrella ambition we are presenting and discussing today. So when we had been speaking to the museums, it became clear that there is a big need for digitalization of cultural heritage and research cooperation between museums, be it big or small, but specifically for the small one. And as you all know much better than I do, the digital revolution has transformed almost every aspect of our lives and the world of museums, and that it is a challenge. And so far, the Europeania, which is a project we salute, it's more of a technical effort, but besides really the attempt to contribute to the 21st century future of the European museums. And I think it became clear in the discussions we had in the Parliament with your representatives that also digitalization doesn't have to serve just the bigger cause of preservation. It simply was the question what we can actually do for the museums, and not with that typical political perspective, could be digitalization some way to make it attractive for visitors, and this kind of explanation that it serves the customer or it serves the society. The question is what we could really do for the museums, for the future of collaboration, actually for something where you would expect, given the dramatic financial situations of museums, we hardly could care about. And I well remember the relatively suspicious and questionable expressions in the faces of your representatives when the Parliament said, and I said, we take it up. We're going to do a cloud. We're going to integrate that idea in a research program which was not typically meant for that issues. And I well remember the very, very complicated discussion with a lot of research ministers during the negotiations and the help of Maria and others. But it was really like early Christianity in the very beginning to convince that we would place a program of 2.3 billion for the cultural heritage and the creative industries in Europe, and not just about the traditional, let's say, setting of a research program. So from my point of view, this significant challenge you had been addressing in terms of collaboration, it had been taken up by politics, and we are in the interesting situation now that we try to convince you about something in practical terms you had been suggesting. And I think that there is a common understanding, and I do know, and in a lot of discussions I had been inviting 5 years ago, then a lot of the museums to the European Parliament. We had a first intensive discussion where, I mean, there is a different reality between the Louvre and a small museum somewhere in the countryside fighting actually for the budget to have the people actually to make the museum running, with deprived possibilities to join the big collaborate conferences, with the problem that we are confronted with an event culture in also for museums where the Vermeer kind of events are drawing attention of millions, but literally to hold up the preservation of the content of museums is a deprived financial challenge. So what I'd like to highlight, and I don't want to repeat what the Commissioner had been saying, I think that we saw that in other areas we are far much advanced with 3D digital presentation. We are far more advanced in terms of using visualization technology. And actually it's all on the table, but it never had been transferred to the world of the museums. And I think what we had been doing, and I would really particularly salute, and that is not this European way of being friendly to the others participating in the panel, I would really salute the intrinsic motivation and ambition and enthusiasm of the Commissioner to do that. I mean, I don't want to reflect to the institutional challenges of the European institution, but you can imagine a project like that is groundbreaking. And I would like to reassure you, and I think Maria is already working on that, and me as the budget rapporteur is already working on that. We are well aware that is an endeavor where 100 million, 110 million might be just the starting point. We broaden the aspect, also it's already integrated in the structural funds. We will need funding also to set up that as a kind of universal cloud for the museums and the archives in Europe by the structural funds. So member states can use European money to back up that ambition. So what we are going to do right now is setting up the technicalities, talk about by the important issues of data integration, which is from my point of view the biggest challenge, because we all know that the Louvres of this world might be able to digitalize, that we have the Europeana, but digital integration, that might be the biggest challenge, because we are in danger that the big institutions are going to start to digitalize, but how to integrate data. And we saw that with a lot of restoration projects. We saw that with this groundbreaking project of the restoration of Notre Dame, how important data integration is for the future. So that serves also, besides the ambition to create a unique, from my point of view, completely unique dimension of, a new dimension of digital collaboration, but it serves also the bigger purpose because it gives digitalization a direction it never had before, and it can bridge specifically the gap between the big institution and the small institutions. And we are aware in terms of budget, in terms of structure, that we really have to have a closer look also to the structural funds. That is really, really important that there is a contribution also by the means allocated by the member states. And we are aware that we should be very careful that this is not just an elite project of exposed museums in Europe, although we need the big museums really to make the whole operation move. So what I simply would like you to ask is, I mean, out of the daily challenges of a lot of institutions I know, it is a challenge to engage. We had been talking to a lot of museums. I think the review or the stakeholder consultation shows that there is a certain attitude to say, of all, how should I engage besides my daily problems in that endeavor? But I think it's a unique chance. I mean, we have never invested in a project of that dimension. And we are all aware that the 110 millions are just the beginning. I mean, I would estimate that in the end, over 2 programs, we're going to spend at least 500 million up to €1 billion for that project. So that is really a challenge or a project we are going to hand over from one commission to the other, from one parliament term to the other. But we are willing to stick to it. You know, we don't want to run you in an ambition where then the question is with the next term, is there an enduring finance? Yes, there is. We are willing to set up something which is unique in the world, literally. And the commissioner had been rightly referring to the challenges, to the perspectives, but I really would like to show you or to reassure you that it opens up a completely new dimension. We have the first examples that, for example, handcraft and regional companies are looking to the content, to the treasures which are in the content of the museums. We have the first collaborations of silversmiths who learn in Dresden what they have been knowing and what they could have done in the past, but they don't know anymore. So it opens up a complete new dimension of collaboration and cooperation on participation of museums than it had been before. And I don't want to strengthen what have been said before, but I want to reassure you that there is an ambition which had never been before. I'm now rapporteur for 20 years for the European Research Program. And I think I've never seen in my life before that the member states, the commission, a commissioner in person like Maria Gabriel, and the parliament are engaged in a way in a project like that. So help us to make that, to come that alive. And just, I would like to express my understanding that a lot of small museums have been answering us. I mean, do you see the real challenges we are facing on a daily basis? And do you expect now to engage in a complex, big endeavor like that? And we would like to reassure you, yes, please do, because it's really meant for the small museum. I mean, collaboration is actually important for actually small institutions who have to fight with the question, how can I pay my curator a trip to a conference in Paris or somewhere when I'm facing existential threats, how to finance my institution in general. So without further delay, I would like to give back to the panel, but I just want to express something which we don't often do in politics. We love what you do. We admire what you do. We listen to you. And now we're not talking about a potential. We made sure that there is a budget, an ambition, a framework, calls out. So help us to fulfill the dream we started together 10 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eller. And now I'm giving the floor to Mr. Livio De Luca, Director of Research in the French National Center for Scientific Research, for a 10-minute presentation around digital dimension of the restoration of Notre Dame. Livio, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Adeline. So I will start sharing my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to this prestigious event. So the fire that devastated Notre Dame Cathedral in 2019 was not only a heartbreaking event, but it also presented an unparalleled opportunity for cross-disciplinary scientific study, especially in the digital age. While our priorities has been to recover knowledge about the cathedral elements and the materials pre-fire, we have also been able to extract valuable information from the preserved materials. For example, by using physicochemical proxies, researchers have gained insight into the climate's evolution, and modeling systems have allowed us to study the site from a geometrical, the structural, and the acoustic perspective. On the other hand, Notre Dame is more than just a physical structure. It represents a shared heritage that evokes emotions across society. And this is another important facet of this global study. The National Scientific Site Notre Dame unites over 175 researchers, 50 research units, and 9 working groups, all focusing on various aspects of the site, including wood, metal, stone, stained glass, decors, structure, acoustics, heritage emotions, and of course, digital data. So an interdisciplinary and diachronic approach is a crucial feature to face all these challenges. As you know, restoring a cathedral is a very complex process that involves the collaboration between multiple stakeholders from different disciplines. This joint effort addresses various aspects of heritage preservation, including the humanities, social sciences, and experimental sciences. And data plays a crucial role, spanning from the centuries before the fire to the hours of the disaster, then the years of a restoration project. And my working group is building a comprehensive digital ecosystem to connect the physical structure with the accumulated knowledge, fostering the multidisciplinary and intersectoral collaboration. So our approach integrates state-of-the-art computational modeling and digitization methods, and it's in line with the vision for the future European collaborative cloud by encompassing actors, activities, material objects, and data within an integrated platform for the co-production of knowledge. Our first key concept is the digital twin. This is essential for a restoration effort, as we must integrate multiple 3D scans and models from the past, present, and future states of the building, so that we can compare data on the cathedral's undamaged and destroyed parts and extract information for rebuilding the missing sections. We introduced custom 4-dimensional scanning devices for digitizing debris removal operations and preserving the spatial location of all the elements. Additionally, we also developed ad hoc scanning devices for quickly collecting high-definition 3D models of various remains collections. And today, we are still developing new devices for digitizing thousands of items, and we will continue in the future in order to accompany the research and the documentation efforts especially belonging to recent archaeological discoveries. And to me, this highlights that our approach represents a shift from episodic scans of a building, of archaeological findings, into what we can consider a digital twin, an evolving representation of a material object that encompasses data produced over time and according to various activities. Using an innovating reality-based annotation approach, we can project data from multiple stakeholders, purposes, and levels of description into an hybrid 2D and 3D space. For example, this allowed us to gather and to spatially locate data related to the post-fire diagnosis, including the conservation state of stones and structures, the deformations, the previous restorations, and the urgent intervention. And this approach provides a detailed view of the challenges to be addressed in the restoration works, and also serves as a scaffold for the new levels of interpretation by adding data from other stakeholders, particularly scientists, today interested in the construction of a new view on the details on the construction techniques, stratigraphy, and the material analysis. And this introduces the potential of what we can consider as a permanent digital twin of material objects that can integrate new data acquisitions, analysis, enrichment related to a multifaceted study. Another key concept in our project is the digital continuum. So during the first urgent interventions after the fire, we encountered a complex puzzle of thousands of remains to be recovered, stored, and sorted and stored. And for example, we managed the documentation of ripstands through the various states, connecting data from the recovery operations, the temporary storage, the on-site archaeological study, and the in-lab material analysis. So we developed some easy-to-deploy documentation processing methods to support the day-to-day data production within our restoration worksite, enabling efficient sorting, cataloging, and access to this data. The digital continuum concept applies to both the technical and the intellectual activities involved in data production. For example, we can trace the path from the sampling of a metal collapse on the cathedral to the scientific study of its material into a laboratory, passing through element sections, microscopy, imaging, chemical treatments, and interpretation derived from observation and data. So this approach allows us for a close linkage between the produced digital resources and the human activities, resulting in significant gains in documentation, but also in knowledge capitalization and on adopted protocols for the study and for the restoration. The technical dimension of our project is not a killer software, but is an open socio-technical system that brings together users, developers, and tools, allowing services to evolve over time and improve their effectiveness. We've built a platform of tools specifically dedicated to the study of the restoration of this building, of this cathedral, by using software bricks from research laboratories, open and reusable, and fully based on web technology that was an important feature during the pandemics. So we are today working on the interlinking framework in order to facilitate the data flow management and the adherence to the FAIR principles. So our digital ecosystem currently hosts over 100 registered users, integrates data and tools into a secure CNRS very large facility for the long-term preservation. And after more than 3 years of work, this includes a huge number of photographs, 3D point clouds, technical drawings, structured 3D models, documentary sources collected from cultural institutions, from laboratories, but also from private companies. The scientific data includes today more than 4,000 items documented by using a dedicated thesaurus containing more than 10,000 vocabulary terms, and more than 10,000 3D annotation represents today the comprehensive condition report of the entire building, inform the post-fire spatial location of the remains. So during the project, that data have been massively shared between scholars from various disciplines and architects in charge of the restoration. And several 3D models are already used by public and private partners operating in creative and cultural industries for movies, TV shows, and virtual reality experiences, also for the general public. So I will conclude by briefly presenting the scientific perspectives we are starting to explore within the ERC-funded research project. By building this digital ecosystem, we are connecting a cathedral of stone, wood, metal, and stained glass with a cathedral of knowledge built by scholars. Our current work focuses on memory, on tracing the path professionals and scientists take in the production of knowledge from their questioning to data analysis and interpretation, and on memorizing the spatio-temporal location and the nature of the technical and the intellectual activities. So that the future step of our project will be about analysis. We will try to interlink material objects and objects of knowledge in massive data analysis. And we hope that our project will unveil thousands of such overlapping regions of interest in space, in time, in form, in knowledge domain, to study the way different actors look at the same reality, especially within a so complex ecosystem. This ambitious endeavor aims to create a deeper understanding of the cathedral's history, its restoration process, but also the intricate connections between the various stakeholders involved. In conclusion, as the encounter between an heritage object and a multidisciplinary community is always a stage for the co-production of knowledge, connecting this digital ecosystem, which includes the actors and the data related to Notre Dame, with other similar ecosystems associated with other heritage objects in Europe, would reveal and activate the countless relationships that link stakeholders, experiences, practices, objects of study, methodological protocols, tools, and data at the European level. So a collaborative cloud should not only cross the geographical boundaries, to me, but also cross disciplinary cultural boundaries towards the creation of digital commons, our new heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. De Luca, for this enlightening presentation. And now let's move on the short presentation of 3 other projects around digital cultural heritage. And the first one is Inception. As I'm giving the floor to Mr. Roberto Di Giulio, professor at the Department of Architecture at the University of Ferrara in Italy, to present this project, which deals with enriched 3D models of built and social environments through time, for more engaging interaction with his heritage. The floor is yours, Roberto.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I will share my screen. You can see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fine. So the Inception project is an Horizon 2020 European project funded in 2015. The project is being implemented by a consortium of 14 partners, including universities, research centers, SMEs, industries, and it ended in 2019 by overcoming the challenges faced and achieving its strategic goal, that was to improve the accessibility and understanding of a cultural heritage. The goal was fulfilled through the implementation of innovative tools for the creation or reuse, interaction and sharing of 3D models and immovable and movable cultural assets. Inception project, and since January 2020, the spin-off established at the University of Ferrara, developed the results achieved. The spin-off has implemented innovative procedures for the creation or reuse, accessibility, and interoperability of 3D models of cultural sites, buildings, and artifacts, and a semantic web platform for visualization, interaction, data access, and sharing of interoperable 3D models. Inception provides the user with a set of tools available on the Inception platform or installed on other platform or website that give them the possibility to access and visualize a 3D information model displayed with an overlay textured 3D mesh model. Using a standard web browser, it is possible to interact with each individual part of the model, component, object, material, enriched with technical and historical data, images, videos, virtual reality, augmented reality applications, and all directly linked as metadata to each single object of the model. The video that is running shows the use of Inception tools to navigate some 3D H-beam models. In the previous images, you have seen the Panagia Zeno Church in a village in Cyprus. Now you are seeing the Ospedale degli Innocenti in Florence. And in the final images, you will see the Church of Santa Maria della Vergine in Italy. The H-beam model of the Ospedale degli Innocenti, that is an important Renaissance building in Florence designed by Filippo Brunelleschi in the 15th century, shows an example of accessing and interacting with the 3D model of the Inception platform. The semantic structure of the Inception toolbox, as you can see in the semantic graphs, allows information to be accessed by selecting the object or using a semantic query, which is to ask a question using the name given to each individual object of the 3D model. Furthermore, semantic queries can be used for retrieving all the pieces of information on external sources or catalogs directly within the platform. The video shows some example of navigation in the 3D model. Selecting the glazed terracotta decoration on the facade, the so-called putti or tondi, made by Andrea della Robbia, the user explores other sources through a semantic query. That is, by asking questions using the word putti or tondi or della Robbia or even ceramic decoration. The video shows that how it is possible in this way to access the Getty vocabulary you have seen before, and then explore the Europeana web portal for more information and documentation. Once the semantic correlation with Europeana is established, user can decide how to access the content. Weaving the attached documentation within the Inception tools itself, or viewing the same documentation directly on the Europeana collection page. The approach allows for new ways of visualizing, navigating, and interacting with the 3D model, leaving contents in its original storage. I mean, without downloading and then uploading it on the Inception platform. Metadata can also include the age of each individual object in the model. That is the age of each part of the building, allowing for dynamic, you are seeing that, for dynamic 3D reconstruction over time and automatically generating a time machine that the user can select, the user can select a year and virtually see the building as it was in the different eras of its life. So we think that the potential of Inception tools could be greatly expanded by the European Cultural Heritage Cloud. Indeed, the functionality of Inception semantic structure would be greatly enhanced by the possibility of accessing interoperable data from a wide network of information sources. Connection, like those demonstrated by the Europeana collection, have the potential to greatly expand and enhance the information associated with 3D assets without the need for extensive transfer or downloads. This is made possible by the Inception tools and the possibility to work with all formats in which the 3D models are created. On the other hand, Inception could also help expand and improve the capacity of the cloud. The Inception technologies could offer the cloud a suite of tools specifically designed to facilitate access to and interaction with the 3D digital assets. Inception Viewer, for example, could be further developed to provide the cloud with the ability to preview the 3D models and to make it possible for users to access 3D models of all formats by opening and visualizing them by cloud application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Di Giulio, for this very clear and complete presentation. Now I'm giving the floor to Mr. Antoine Doucet, professor in the University of La Rochelle in France, to present another project called NewsEye. This project is a digital investigator for historical newspaper, and it aims to change the way European digital heritage as data is researched, accessed, used, and analyzed. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to this wonderful event. NewsEye is a project aimed to, like you said, create a digital investigator for historical newspapers. It's a digital humanities project, therefore involving partners from the libraries, national libraries, digital humanities, 4 groups of research in digital humanities, and 4 groups of research in computer science. It was funded by Horizon 2020, and its goal, summed up ambitiously, is to change the way European cultural heritage data is searched, researched, accessed, used, and analyzed. We focused on historical newspapers. The reason is that there's tens of millions of pages digitized around Europe in lots of digitization campaigns, many languages, many sources, and newspapers are extremely numerous, and they are hard to preserve because they were meant to be consumed daily, and they are still meant to be consumed daily. Therefore, they have to be cheap. Therefore, they have to use cheap ink and cheap paper. And after a few hundred years, they are not in the best shape, which means there's a lot of interesting challenges on how to exploit them in spite of the preservation issues and the digitization. They're also extremely numerous, way too numerous to be analyzed manually by one single person or even a group of persons. And the need for supporting quantitative analysis is extremely strong, and to guide the qualitative research of humanities scholars. So very simply, you can see that the content is damaged. That's one of the challenges. If you see here, the page was folded for a long time, and a lot of characters will not be recognized, which means a lot of words will not be recognized, which means you will search for one of those words and you will not find it, and you will miss this document, and it might contradict your hypothesis of the collection. Also, we need to recognize articles because we have pictures of pages after digitization, and we need to know automatically whether this article stops here or whether it continues after the second title. And if we are wrong, we will have incomplete articles or way too long articles, or we might, in the worst case, even read articles in the wrong order. And all these are the challenges that we want to solve in order to allow for an understandable quantitative analysis that can be justified and explained through qualitative pointers to make sure we are not entering a black box effect. And another strong objective is to address collections in any language, any type of corpus, and any domain, so that we open to including more collections and addressing more research questions from digital humanities scholars or humanities scholars. So the goals of the project, what the project is starting from digitized newspapers, had 2 steps: extracting the text, extracting the articles, finding the right borders in the articles, doing what we call semantic enrichment, so finding person names, locations, organizations, to help have more semantically rich analysis and not only focus on keywords or chains of characters. Find the opinion, find the new events, and this brings us to a big knowledge base that is completely language independent and provides a lot of metadata on large collections of newspapers. Then we provide tools for analysis, and all of this is visible in the interface, the NewsEye platform that I will very briefly show later. And in all of these steps, we had very good results at in international benchmarks. For instance, having the best performance for recognizing named entities and linking named entities in every language. In this context of historical documents and digitized documents. So the platform is available to all. It contains 1.5 million pages of newspapers from the Finnish, French, and Austrian national libraries, therefore with 4 languages and a few samples in English to make the use case visible to all and understandable to all. There's a lot of explanations with videos that are also available online, and you can see one of them here. And what you can see is that you can actually browse through articles, open articles, get the extracted contents of articles on the right-hand side. The text can be extracted. You can build your own collection, extract your own collection, export your collection, process it outside, process your collection in the platform, share your collection with colleagues or with the general public. And you can browse using these named entities. So you can see HHSQuit. You can build your collection, whatever the language it is written in, whatever his name is in different languages. You can browse it per person. So for instance, if you think of William II, the Kaiser, to find him, you can browse through by person, and you will not only, if you look for William II, you will also find Wilhelm II in German and Guillaume II in French. And all of that will be grouped together, and you can really build cross-lingual collections. Other than that, we adhered to open science principles. So all the code, the data set, the scientific papers are available. There's even educational materials that were made available. And this is where it becomes relevant for everyone here. The project highlights were that we reached state of the art in several problems. The open science makes everything available. But in addition to that, we know that giving source code is not always enough. Of course, you need support, and we have exploitation going on. Everything we did is available through Transcribus, which is a common tool made by European cooperative to analyze digitized contents. And the platform is available already now, and through the cloud we can integrate many more collections. And libraries can also create their own versions of the platform, as did the National Library of Austria with its Analyzer tool, which is currently available in library labs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ready for questions later if there's any, or online, offline.
Thank you, Mr. Doucet. And now I give the floor to Mr. Timmy Gambin, Professor of Maritime Archaeology in the University of Malta, to present the last but not least project, Making the Invisible Visible Underwater Malta. As the title suggests, the project aimed to create a virtual museum for submerged cultural heritage.
Morning, and thank you for the invitation. I must say that I'm relatively disappointed with the turnout of attendees, because, as the MEP rightly said, that small museums struggle to send people to conferences, etc., but to attend online is absolutely free, and I would have expected and hoped for such small museums, etc., to attend and contribute to what will surely become an essential tool. There's a slight mistake in my title, because we speak about making the invisible visible when it comes to underwater cultural heritage, but the purpose of this presentation is actually to show and to share the invisible aspects of what we make visible. Anyway, without further ado, there are 3 very important words that are our mantra, which are explore, record, and share. And we believe in them so much that we even put it on a t-shirt so that we don't forget what our 3 core duties are. So when it comes to exploration, we use a state-of-the-art autonomous underwater vehicle. And the idea is to create an archaeological map of the entire seabed, territorial waters of Malta. And obviously, every day we go out, we generate substantial amounts of raw data, processed data, etc. These are the kind of targets that we find. So I think anybody can see that this is a plane. So for us, this stock take, the record, is essential, because without knowing what you have, you cannot manage what you have. You need information to take an informed decision, basically. Once we take decisions based on a system, a grading system that we have, then we go into the record phase, which takes on various aspects. So we've got state-of-the-art underwater 360 cameras. I will show you what we use these for. Okay. We have underwater camera that shoots in 8K, so the raw data is also very heavy, data heavy. This we use, to share via documentaries, etc. And we've also developed a system, a diver health system for recording underwater cultural heritage in 3D. So we can now turn this into something like this. Now, this is a very pretty 3D photogrammetric model, but as our colleagues already showed, especially enlightening was the presentation about Notre Dame. So this model now acts as what we refer to as the mother model. So we can measure marine ecology, we can actually gauge the state of preservation of the site when we recorded it, and then when we return after 2, 3, 4 years, then we're able to see the rate of degradation, etc. But it also plays into the aspect of sharing. So when it comes to sharing, so this is where making the invisible visible related to Underwater Malta. We obviously share via academic publications, but this is only a very small part, because let's face it, if we're lucky, maybe 300 people will read our academic paper, 50 people will cite it, and that makes academics happy. But the reality is, I don't know about my colleagues that are online. We are a public university. I'm paid, my wage is paid by taxpayers' money, and me and my team feel duty bound to share our work beyond the academic world and really take it to the public domain, not just because we owe this to the taxpayer, but also because underwater cultural heritage is much more difficult to share than terrestrial heritage. So we use the data that we collect in our exploration and recording phases to share with the wider public, not only locally but globally. So platforms such as Google Arts and Culture. We launched the virtual museum Underwater Malta. I will not go into detail in the few minutes that I have. This is the best virtual museum nobody's ever heard of, because our core business is to go out, record and share. But despite the appetite for digital cultural heritage, we're not marketers ourselves, so we find it very difficult to get the message across and share this museum. We scan or do photogrammetry of all the objects that we get up. This is just a screen grab from our Sketchfab page. Again, just behind all of these additions and sharing platforms, data is building up on a daily basis. And really, the thing that we're really proud of is sharing sites through an outreach program, which basically here we get the 360 videos and take them to schools, to scout groups, to old people's home. We've just now going to to the oncology center at our hospital, where we're negotiating how to get this experience to cancer patients. I want to add that many of our sites are beyond traditional scuba diving depth. So already a huge percentage of people don't dive in the global population. Those that dive generally dive to a recreational depth of 30 meters. Our sites are deeper than 55 meters. So this is our way of taking the site to the people rather than a traditional museum taking the people to the site. A shout out to Nick and Julia from the team, top right. They do an incredible job of sharing the joy. And I think that kid in the left-hand picture with his mouth wide open in astonishment says the whole story. So we'll go back to explore, record, and share. I think we're going to have to make new t-shirts because we really have to store all the data that goes into our work. And I cannot share fancy pictures that show connections between workflows and so on. But what I can show is that how over the years, you know, our storage system is overflowing, and on the basis of so if you think that what I've just shown is one small, you know, the underwater cultural heritage of a small European nation. This is a screen grab from the Irish GIS database for shipwreck. So imagine Ireland had to do this level of recording, what kind of storage they would need. Now multiply that to the entire European Union. Multiply that now not just with underwater cultural heritage, but terrestrial heritage, etc. And I think you start to get a better idea of the task that is ahead. So to conclude, I will conclude with a question whether this is needed, okay, and with a bit of a crass answer, but there is no doubt that we are in desperate need of this cloud for digital cultural heritage. So thank you. That's my few minutes worth, and I'm available for contribution or whatever, whenever needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gambing. And with this last presentation, that concludes the first part of the event. I would also like to thank all the speakers for their presentation, but also the audience, as I might remind that about thousands of participants are currently following this event online. So thank you very much, and we really need your input, and we will see it during the second part of the event, and we are entering in just now and focusing on the building of a community of practice around this collaborative cloud of cultural heritage. And to introduce that, let me give the floor to a member of European Parliament, Alexis Georgoulis, who will open this session, followed by Mrs. Pajal from NIMU, who will do an intervention, and then we will split into three parallel sessions. So, sorry, Mr. Alexis Georgoulis, I give you the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to Mrs. Commissioner, to our colleague, Mr. Eller. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me today to talk about the very important issues of cultural heritage in the digital era. Cultural heritage is of huge importance to cultivating our identity and the sense of belonging, and therefore community belonging, community building. Cultural heritage is of utmost importance to reflect to contemporary creation as well, because current cultural production will be our cultural heritage of the future. And we already have a clear experience on what on that, which is the paradigm of Renaissance. In Renaissance, artists got inspired by their cultural heritage back then, and with their creations moved their society forward. Through cultural heritage, they triggered innovation, imagination, and creativity, and eventually their future, which is our present cultural heritage. So now, in view of the digital transition, it is our turn to establish our foundations towards our future through a new renaissance, if you want to say it. Which should be completely inclusive, commonly shared, and therefore expand to the digital world. At the same time, we need to have in mind the innovative and the entertainment aspect of culture and creation. Please take a moment to consider that without cultural entertainment, such as video games, movies, and etc., our computers would still be black screens with green or orange letters. I mean, the cultural sector funded the digital world to upgrade and expand. And now it is digital world's turn to fund back to culture. This cultural heritage cloud can give to the people a great access to cultural heritage. It is, this is vital for a civilized society, for democracy, for our Europe to be united in diversity. That's why it is crucial to achieve tangible benefits in the day-to-day work of all cultural heritage professionals and organizations. And we should ensure that especially museums or other heritage actors of a smaller scale or isolated in rural or insular and any remote areas may indeed have a true benefit. This could be in terms of visibility, expertise, know-how, and the good practices, as well as funds, or any other possible gains that civil society actors themselves may give us. These people are the experts, and their contribution is essential to build a community of long-term and sustainable practice. They know firsthand the ways forward that to what we are seeking for. Also, in order to have the best possible impact to the broadest possible audience. After all, without the broad audience, our heritage community will never be truly completed. Our efforts should aim at triggering audience interest to cultural heritage in the most inclusive and open ways, not only for mere information on cultural heritage, but for creating the desire to travel as well to where cultural heritage is located. In this respect, I would like to highlight that the youngsters have a special interest to the digital world, and this creates an opportunity. Therefore, in this community building, we need to pay special attention to effectively engaging the youth, giving them the tools and the inspiration to bridge and enrich our cultural heritage to the generations after. Not only to leave no one behind, but also to leave no one alone forward. The cultural heritage cloud may only be proven as a great path to our cultural heritage to thrive. And the key word is community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Georgoulis, for this presentation and reminding the codependence and co-creation between culture, creatives, and innovation. And I'm giving the floor to Mrs. Julia Pagel, Secretary General of the Network of European Museum Organizations. The floor is yours, Julia.
Everybody. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Wonderful. Let me just share my screen with you. That should be it. Can you see it? Wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you for the invite, and thank you all previous speakers. I think we have established that this European cloud is for all, for the small, for the big, for the remote, and for the urban ones, particularly museums. NEMO is, as Adeline, you were saying already, a network representing the museums in Europe. And I think museums are among, if not the main potential future users of this cloud. So how can we mobilize the sector to start, to continue, and also to refine their digital journey, including making use of such tools as the cloud will be? You notice maybe from the choice of my words that we are looking at a very diverse sector that has been mentioned various times already, not only because of different types and sizes, but also different in terms of where museums are in their digital journey. Some are at the very beginning. Some are only starting to digitize their collections, while others have created full-blown digital communities with fantastic apps based on their collections already up and running. And answering to the needs of a very heterogeneous community like this is going to be a big challenge. So why should museums participate? Let's go 3 years back. I'm going to call this slide "And then came COVID." I mentioned COVID here because I think despite the fact that the sector has been engaging with the digital transformation for plus 15 years already, for a long time, the digital outlet was considered by a large part of the community as an add-on, a nice to have, but not really necessary. And little financial support, lacking infrastructure, knowledge, and skills did not make the sector move more quickly. But then came COVID, and you might remember a few of those posters when the museums finally opened up again after the first lockdown. I think this was the moment when all museums decided that they really needed to engage digitally and that the digital outlet would and will be key to museums to be successful and also relevant in the future. Now, 3 years after the pandemic started and physical visitors coming back to museums and the numbers are more or less back to normal, almost all museums, exactly 93%, according to our survey that we did in the end of 2020, have now increased or started a new online service since the onset of the pandemic. So I think we can safely say that the sector is ready to explore the digital opportunities to the fullest. Maybe also interesting to see what the demand side looks like. So what online visitors like most. Museums reported that social media, video material, and learning programs was the most successful with online audiences. This graph also tells us that we need to invest into tools that help museums track their online visitors. A fourth of the museums do not track whether their online activities are successful or not, or they do not track their digital visitors. So when we look at how to design the support for museums to make use of digital opportunities like the cloud will be, we need to address the following main challenges. By helping to support and develop digital infrastructure and skills, for example, in helping them to deal with intellectual property rights, helping to increase the quality of online services to be able to compete with every other app on the internet, helping to understand and diversify digital audiences, providing tools that help measure if what museums are doing digitally is successful, and by helping them to find ways to monetize their online offers even. And if the cloud can help find some answers to those imminent questions, it will be crowded with museum professionals up there. And next to the challenges, my dream version of the cloud looks like this. It actually has a lot in common with what networks do, because it brings together people or professionals that have similar interests and grow their opportunities by working together. Collaboration is key for our success because of the challenges that we discussed, which cannot be solved alone. And museums are no islands. We need to understand ourselves as parts of a community. I think the first steps are taken today by creating this community of practice around the cloud We have 3 workshops coming up that will address some of the topics that will be relevant for museums to succeed digitally in the future. These are digital capacity building, then intellectual property rights, and digital community building. Now, for the upcoming discussion in the workshops, I have collected some food for thought. These are mainly recommendations that NEMO put forward for the past years, addressing all stakeholders, including museums and policymakers alike. For the capacity building, I think one important aspect when you think of the design of the cloud features is to understand that IT skills are needed throughout the staff to make the museum successful digitally. Surely everybody would think of the documentation department, the IT department to receive training, but we just saw that educational programs are the most successful with online visitors. So museum educators also need training when it comes to the digital realm. Then museums need to anchor their activities in digital strategies, and it's important to help museums develop these. And last but not least, this support needs to happen on a structural basis, understanding the development of skills as an investment in the future of museums' work, not only in relation to a specific project. And here I'm really happy to hear Mr. Ehler's words about the long-term planning and involvement of structural funds for the upkeeping of the cloud. For the IPR and legal frameworks, I think a main point of discussion is certainly that currently there is only little understanding of how to handle IPR in the museums themselves, and especially the smaller ones. Many museums reach out to experts and service agencies if they have the money for that, but the field is diffuse still and still needs to be better aligned. How can we develop better expertise in-house on national and European level? And can we maybe even dream of a European legal framework that museums can operate in? And last but not least, we have noticed that the dialogue between practitioners, policymakers, and intermediaries needs to be strengthened. Many professionals do not know which legal frameworks they're operating in and where help can be found, despite the fact that there is help already in the field. And the community of practice, and that may be the most important aspect of building to the success of the cloud. I think we need to start discussing the relevance of European collaboration via the cloud. Why should museum professionals engage cross-border, and what can we tackle better together? And this starts with defining shared interests and challenges. It will be important to provide access and bundle regional, national, European, and international supportive bodies and initiatives, and also connect other sectors such as the creative sector, the educational sector, because providing that access is one of those added values that individual organizations, especially the smaller ones, have a hard time doing by all themselves. And with this, I leave you. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you very fruitful conversations in the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Pajal. And now, before starting the parallel sessions, I will just remind you which one are there, the 3 of them, already mentioned by Commissioner Gabriel. So we will split into 3 sessions. The first one is capacity building for training opportunities on IT skills. The second one is about developing collaborative work on the protection and the exploitation of intellectual property rights. And the third one is about building a community of practice for and with the users. So to be on the same page about the modalities for those parallel sessions, you can choose whichever session you are interested more. by clicking on the screens you see, and then you will be able and you are encouraged to use Slido, either from your computer or by scanning the QR code you see with your smartphone to post your remarks, your comments, and any suggestion that you might have. We will have a short break of 5 minutes because I remind you that we are more than 1,000 participants. So in order to be ready and to be sure that there is no technical problem, we should start those sessions at 11:40 approximately. So we will have a break of 15 minutes from now. So you can click on the links that you must see on your screen and choose your session, and then we will be again in the plenary. Thank you.